If I cannot say to Michael, your number one important thing is ROI or bottom line or taxes, I need to be able to identify that. You should have a running list of what are the things that are important to that client so you can speak to those. And then any solution that you're proposing or any conversation you're having ties right back to it.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. I'm your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be a fun one. Our guest is a leadership strategist and speaker who helps leaders break through hidden biases and mindset barriers to build resilient, high-performing teams and cultures that drive real results. Teresa Gregory, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here today.
Yeah, it's great to have you, and I'm looking forward to learning about your journey and the work that you do to help our listener do everything I just said in the bio. So maybe let's start with that. Tell us a little bit about you and your career journey leading up to this point.
So I started my career many years ago. I'm a Gen Xer, so it's been a while that I've been doing this work. But I started in corporate, and I, like many of your audience, I was in a corporate role, and then I transitioned into my own business, my own firm, and wanted to expand on my skill sets. And I started in training and development. So how do we motivate and build and design and give people career paths? And then I've transitioned into executive coaching to really hone in on how do business owners make the most of their investment in their time, but also help them uncover some hidden mindset things that may be holding them back.
Very cool. Well, that's interesting. And I think that there's a few things that ring true to me and interesting, which is that, magical awareness of something that you weren't aware of prior. And then when you're aware of it, unlocks. It's the big unlock, which is so elusive, and it never ends, right? It's like there's always something you don't know about yourself or the way you're thinking, the view that you have of the world. And if you can unlock that, well, we create new opportunities. So maybe let's start there and think of our listener, a bookkeeping firm or finance team. What's one intentional leadership habit that can immediately improve trust both within their team and with their clients?
So the first thing I tell leaders is, how's your judging going? And I always do this. I supported the finance organization at Microsoft, and often what happens is you are pre-biased to something unbeknownst to yourself. So you're going into a meeting and you're going to meet with a client for the first time, and someone has told you that client is difficult. They've said, Teresa is difficult to work with. You are now pre-biased to Teresa being difficult. So anything that client says, you automatically frame it into, oh, they're being difficult. They said they were difficult. So you're already putting up what I call a barrier to the engagement. And so the first thing I always tell leaders and executives and business owners is check everything at the door. What is happening? What's going on? What hidden pattern do you have? And take 5 minutes before the meeting to really focus on what is the objective of this meeting. And then when you start the meeting, what's the objective I'm trying to accomplish? And you check in with the client. What are you trying to accomplish? What am I trying to accomplish? And set the tone of the meeting to be on a path of solutioning and not a path of I'm hearing their gripes or they're venting at me.
I love it. It's amazing. We have, when you were speaking, I'm thinking, yes, these biases, and they're there for a reason. Maybe let's talk a little bit about that. They're there for a reason, but they impact, like you've given the example, and it's probably often in our life. If I think about my day today, I'm going to have all sorts of biases around my family, my friends, my work, the things I do, what I eat, what I drink, like all these biases that help us just get through the day. But then there's these ones that put up these barriers, like that person's, oh, it's going to be bad traffic. It's always bad traffic. Well, guess what? The traffic was bad. So let's dig a little deeper into that, because I think that's a big opportunity for an unlock.
So I started off this way. I went to coffee this morning. I went to my local Starbucks store and I walked in and I'm going to order and they're busy, obviously. It's the middle of the morning. Everybody's busy. And the person in front of me clearly has never been to a Starbucks or has never ordered coffee before and stood there and was like, oh, and you've already been standing in line for 15 minutes. So immediately, what has happened? I have started to judge this person before they've even ordered their coffee. I'm looking at how they're standing. I'm looking at that they're confused. I'm now made a judgment that they've never ordered coffee before. Like, I'm doing all of these things. What I tell people is that is a fight or flight response. That is a natural response that you have. It's a natural response that you always have. It's always running in the background. This is something that is inbred in us because it keeps us safe. That is why your brain works this way. It assesses what's going on in the room and it says, am I safe in this room? Yes. Continue, right? So it's this fight or flight response that's really biological. How it shows up for businesses and how it shows up as a barrier is that I listen to it, or I allow it from a past experience to cloud what's going on today. And so I always tell people that when you're in that moment, I made the bias that they've never ordered coffee before, right? I've made that bias. Now, how does that impact them? I'm going to treat them differently. I'm going to talk to them differently. If they were to turn around and looked at me and asked a question, I'd be like, well, clearly they've never ordered coffee. And then I would be explaining how coffee works. So how I show up to them is based on how I have categorized them. And so one of the things I tell people is you can break that pattern. You can break that by being intentional and thinking about how is that showing up for me? What bias will I bring into this meeting? I'm meeting this client again. Often in bookkeeping, we're meeting with finances is one of the biggest I call it the biggest challenge point for people, right? They're very personal and they have all these things about tied up with money. So when you're talking to them about it, their hackles are already up. Identify that. Start the conversation of, hey, this is a difficult conversation and I know that. we're going to be present for each other, and how do we get through these conversations? So being intentional is what helps you break that pattern.
It's so interesting, and that right there is a great one where you can create new things when you let go of the things that you might already have figured out. And it's like the example I used is I go about my day in my little program, but if I interrupt the program, I might discover something new outside of the program, and that's where the opportunities are. And with clients, we have these biases that we have going with those particular clients. You're not going to be looking for anything else but the bias. So if you drop that, like you're saying, now we can maybe hear new things, support them in new ways, connect with them differently, which is all cool. Now that's the sunny side of it. The other side is, let's say we have a client that is a pain in the you-know-what, and we go in with the bias, you're a pain in the butt. And when we're talking with them, they are a pain in the butt. How do we deal with that? Because I'm sure we're responsible for that at some point, but...
Right. Well, sometimes what I tell people when you're going to have a difficult conversation, or that the person is difficult, I want to start the conversation with what I call as the same team. And this is a concept that I use with a lot of teams that says, we want the same outcome. The journey to get there is going to be different for both of us, but you have to identify what is the outcome that client wants. What's their outcome? What is their ultimate end goal? And then you need to articulate it. You need to start the conversation saying, Hey, Michael, this is the end in mind. Are we on alignment that that's going to be the end? I know your journey. You want to take path A. My belief is we need to take path C because it's going to save you money. And now I'm talking about why I'm picking this path for you. And I'm going back to your core values. And if you don't know what the core values of your client is, you need to start there. Like if I cannot say to Michael, your number one important thing is ROI or bottom line or taxes, I need to be able to identify that. You should have a running list of what are the things that are important to that client so you can speak to those. And then any solution that you're proposing or any conversation you're having ties right back to it.
Very cool. Very cool. It's really a big opportunity, I think, for people to be aware of this and interrupt it. And so maybe let's change the gears a little bit and talk a little bit deeper about being clear and intentional, because that's a big piece here. We've heard it a few times. You're being intentional. You're getting yourself clear. Maybe talk a little bit about how you do that for yourself and maybe coach your clients to do that, and then we can layer that in.
So I use a method that's called the pause method. It's very easy because it's called pause. And so it goes with the P, it starts with the P. And the very first thing I do is pause. That's the very first task. So you need to identify what are the biases that you're bringing into your interactions. I'll give an example. I am going to go to a conference and I'm going to be a speaker at that conference. It's coming up and I am prepping for that. So the very first thing that I have done is I have sat down and said, I am going to meet these ladies. I know some of the other speakers who are going. I have looked them up. There are two of them that I am quite frankly like in awe of. These are amazing women. I know that they're going to teach me something. And I need to make sure that when I meet with them, I'm not awestruck. Right? We're both equals in our own way. And so you want to pause for the first piece, right? You want to pause and identify what is the bias that you're carrying, whether that's I'm not good enough or that client is difficult, whatever that bias is, I need to name it. That's the very first thing. Pause and name it. The second one is awareness, right? Now that I know I have a bias, I need to be aware of what I need to do, right? I need to be aware that I have this bias and that it shows up when the client speaks to me this way, my frame pops up. I need to be aware of when it's going to happen. And then as I go through the rest of the USE, I think about how do I unwind it, right? So if I look at how do I unwind what I've already done, I'm reinforcing every time I have this engagement with them without identifying it and without saying, hey, this is what's going on. I'm reinforcing and I'm not unwinding this path that I'm on. I'm not rewinding where I'm going. And then you have to be really strategic. You have to say to people, this is how I'm going to change it and be intentional. You have to identify it and say, this is what's causing me to do this. And then I have to look at how do I overcome it? What are the things I'm going to do differently? What is the strategy that I'm going to put into place? Because every time you're going to meet with somebody, it's a different strategy. So I'm going to the conference. What's my strategy? My strategy is I know who I'm going to meet. I need to be open to those ideas and listen. So less talking on my end and listen more. And as a business owner, that's often difficult, right? We want to get to the solution. We want to tell them what it is and we want to move on. And often we're missing that listening piece, that strategy of saying, how do I work with them and create a new path? And then really the effectiveness of it. You got to go back and like with any big project, you have to go back and evaluate. What am I doing? How is it working? Did it work? It didn't work the first time. That's okay. I'm going to try this process again. And the next time I need to really maintain, did it work? Am I seeing them differently? And am I showing up differently? And I have to evaluate myself to make sure that I'm really listening to what they're doing.
You know, the listening piece often gets forgotten. You know, it's because we want people to execute on things. We want to have a good plan and then execute on that plan. But the middle piece there, or the pre-piece is what questions are we asking, and are we listening truly to the answers in a more deep way? And so that piece of being clear and intentional without listening, there's a big disconnect. And it's like maybe a reframe, because I think often people think they're listening or they know that they should be or whatever. There's all the, like, honestly, I don't know that there's even a curriculum around listening in the world today. Oh, is there?
It's called active listening. There's a curriculum on it. And what I tell people is most often you're doing what's called reloading. So let me explain the difference. Active listening, I am listening to what you're saying, and then to be active, I reframe it to you in my words. So you're going to use certain words. I don't use those words. It's not in my business, not my vocabulary. I'm going to reframe it back to you. So what I say is reposition it back to you. So what I heard you saying is, and then I fill in the words with how I would do it, and then you're acknowledging I got it right. Or I, at the end of that statement, go, did I get that right? Do we feel like we're on the same page? So that's active listening. Often what we're doing is we're reloading. I call it reloading. And basically what you're doing is you're waiting and you're staring and you're nodding and you're actively looking like you're listening. But what's really happening is you're just waiting for you to jump in and give your answer or get your point across. You're not taking that information in and digesting it. You're waiting for your opportunity to just jump in and control the conversation.
It's wonderful stuff. And I think that's an area, because if you think of, it's almost like a reframe potentially for our listener. And when I said curriculum, I was thinking in terms of like, they don't spend a lot of time throughout school for kids and teaching kids to listen, and what you've just said with the active or the reframing. I forget what you called the second one, but is it
reloading?
Reloading. Reloading. It's like, yeah, we're just sitting here waiting for our turn. And it's a behavior. It's like hard to do because, we've got this big brain. It's got all sorts of stuff going. Did I wash the dishes? Did I turn off the iron? And I'm trying to listen at the same time. And I think that's where that connection to being clear and intentional when we go there. But if the reframe is part of what our listener gets paid for is listening. And I would say that they're probably pretty good at it, because if you weren't good at listening, well, the great ones, the great bookkeepers that have built great businesses, let's say, all of my listeners, of course, would be good listeners because they're able to build empathy. This is what comes from good listening, potentially. But I think we can be better at it, and we'll get better outcomes if we up level on this in being clear and intentional, like you're talking about, and reframe just that point of being a better listener every single day. And I'm saying that right to myself as well, because new things can come from there.
Right. And what I tell people when you're working with clients, especially, and you're talking to them, yes, in this business, you are great listeners, right? You have to be, because you've got to listen to what their input is, and then you have to make decisions, and you're running their books, and you're helping them with whatever those financial decisions. It could be strategic, it could be just, transactional. So it all depends on where you are in your business. But often what I find out when I talk to people is they do a checkpoint meeting at the beginning of onboarding. They work with the client. There's no recheck. So while you're listening to the day-to-day of what they want, you're actually not being strategic and going back and having these, what I call these intentional conversations about what they really mean. Because as you know, your business changed, their business has changed. Their focus, it could be something personal that's happened that is now filled into that. So now it's now being a leader in their life, and you don't know about it because you didn't ask the question. And often when it's being transactional, you're not going to share that, oh, my mom is sick, right? I'm in that category where I have elder parents and I still have children, right? So I'm a sandwich. And what happens is I get the stress from having older parents and having to take them. I have to take her to doctor's appointments. I got to drive her around. I am managing her medication. Like, when did this happen? And that sometimes shows up in my day-to-day where I have to have a client meeting, and really what I'm thinking about is, oh, mom's got a doctor's appointment tomorrow. And so it happens to me as well. So we need to carve out the time and be intentional with that time, but also we need to schedule time to talk about what's important to them. What's going on in their business? What has changed? Has anything changed? Has your goals changed? Has something come up? And just have those check-ins. And I always do it once a month. And a lot of people go, that's really excessive. I have 400 clients, Teresa. And I'm like, then do it quarterly. Find the time that will work with your business, but you should be having that. And then I keep a OneNote that says, when I talk to this client, I know this is what's going on that's important. And when I check in with her, is this still important? Is this still a priority for you? I have a client, we're coaching on leadership development, but she's losing weight, right? So that's one of her key goals is losing weight, which really doesn't imbibe in how her career growth is, right? But it does, because now she's thinking about changing careers. That's important for me, right? I'm developing her to be a CEO, and now she's thinking about doing a big career shift because she's really on this weight loss journey and she wants to get involved in that type of business. I need to be open to saying, oh, okay, well, what's your goal? I'm here to serve you. I'm not, it's not just my program that I want you to take. I'm here to serve you. And that's the important piece I think that we need to do.
Yeah, there's some good stuff there. When you think of what the opportunity is here, and if we think this is what you get paid for, being a good listener, being able to, there'd be a bunch of things we'd have to do, like you've said, in order to be clear and intentional. It's not just our brain, it's also how we set our day up, how we run our business, what systems we put in place. The more we can offload from our everything's in my head and I need to remember everything, or I've got all this crazy stuff going on in my life. Can we put some things in place that, handle those things? Then we can be better listeners with our team, with our clients. And that's how we grow our business, or it's a lever, it's an opportunity that we can use to grow our business. And I think in this day and age, with what's happening with AI, it's an important place to stop and go, wait a second, this is being a great listener. I mean, Claude and ChatGPT, they're pretty good listeners. However, they're going to tell you what the number, they're just going to give you back data, right? Empathy, a human empathy and a human brain is powerful. And so that's definitely going to be a piece of the future where humans will continue to just use their human gifts. And this is one of them that we're talking about. And bookkeepers are really positioned well because they will always be stewards or shepherds of the finances, and that's where they're really placed. And they have such a direct and deep relationship with business owners. I mean, I've been doing this for a while, and if there's one thing I could say that's different about bookkeepers than any other vendor out there that works with entrepreneurs is they have a lot of screen time, a lot of face time with the owner, and a very high level of trust because of what you said in the beginning, the numbers, right? They can be, people have emotional connections to them.
Right.
It's very important. It's an important piece of the business. It's like, I don't care what happens with the money. Just let it go. No.
Nobody says no one ever.
Nobody's saying that.
Right?
Nobody's saying that. So you're there, and the better you position yourself as, I'm the one that listens to you and helps you get more of what you want. In any with any business owner, that's great opportunity. So this is unlocking. There's lots of opportunities when we get better at this. And so we've talked a little bit about that. What other ways can we integrate what you do and help people with into for our listener?
So I always say you're in a position of trust, and that trust is given to you, and now you're managing this person's finances, their business, sometimes their life. And what I tell people is you have a unique seat at the table, right? Unlike what you just said, you're talking directly to the owner. You're talking to the executive team. You are part of that team. You may not sit in that team all day long, but you're a part of that team and you're a strategic ally. So I always tell people that your role is strategy. So you may not think it's strategy, but that's part of the thing I think is important for us to remember is you are a strategy person. And how you grow and develop that relationship with someone is in this strategic kind of mindset. So you have this position of trust and then a position of strategy. And your job is also to look at the market, to look at how things are going, understand their business, and then also help guide them. And when you do that, you up-level what happens in that business. When they trust you more, you get more opportunities with them, and that builds long-term client relationship, that builds the revenue that you want to have. It allows you to charge more money, right? So when you are in a category of, I have these finances and I'm the bookkeeper and I want to raise my rates. If I don't have a position where I've shown and demonstrated value, they're going to go to the next person that's charging what I'm charging currently. They're not going to grow with me. And so I want to grow that relationship with that client so I can ask for more money and command that more money. It also, when I talk about that piece, I always talk about I'm not good enough to get more money. Right? This is what I've always charged them. Well, if they're not meeting your business needs, because you're running a business, if they're not meeting your business needs, what junior person can you put them to? What person can you move them to? What other people in your circle of influence can you offload them to? Because you too want to grow your business. You too want to have these great things and not do the day-to-day. So think for yourself as well. What's the strategy I'm doing? How am I working with this client? And how do they feed into my long-term goal?
You do coaching with people. That's your main part of your business. I'd really
Yes.
love to hear maybe a little bit about what you've learned through your journey of coaching people and business owners and seeing the transformations that happen. And, you were talking about one piece there, which was the pricing, right? It's like there's really two things, not only two things, but I'm going to say two things. And there's way more than two things, but there's two things around pricing, which is there's a way to do it,
Right?
but then there's also your own context and, beliefs about it. And those two are two of the tough ones, right? It's like you need to know how to do it. That can be learned. There's education, there's
Yes.
YouTube, there's all sorts of things. It's like how to do it. What prevents you from doing it is the mind. And that's the big brick wall, the wall that's in front of you, the barrier. And so, I'm sure we've talked about it on the podcast before, but I think it's an opportunity to restate the power of working with someone like yourself to, if you're stuck or you're not doing something that you think you should be doing, it is likely to do with this, and it goes right back to where we started, which is your bias, right? Around something like that. And I think pricing's big, going out and introducing yourself to new business owners, taking maybe uncomfortable steps in doing things in your business. There's big unlocks there that can really, with a couple of different viewpoints, working with someone like yourself, could really create an unlock that leads to like rapid results. So maybe that's just a thought I had.
So I tell in my journey of doing this, the first thing I learned is I need my own coach. I need a coach. So just so you know, I have a business coach. In fact, I have two of them. And someone said to me, "You're a coach. Why do you have a business coach?" And what I always tell people is they give me perspective that I don't have with experiences that I don't have. So oftentimes when you talk to someone, a coach in particular, they will give you a different perspective. They're going to give you a different lens. They are going to help guide you. They're going to help kind of help you uncover what's holding you back. So having a business coach, I think for any business owner is very important. You should have some trusted individual. Now, do you have to pay that person? Not necessarily. You could work on a mentorship program where you mentor them on something and it's a quid pro quo kind of thing, or it's a tit for tat. So you don't have to pay for those services if you can't afford them. That's one opportunity I tell people. But always look for, I need a mentor, and you want a mentor that's not in your bucket. So I worked at Microsoft. Steve Ballmer was the CEO. He has a business coach. She does not know anything about software. I mean, she does because she coaches him, right? She does now. But at the very beginning, when I had the opportunity to meet with her, I'm like, you don't know anything about software. Like she doesn't need to know about software. What does she need to know? She needs to understand how her client works and then how her client can get better and what are the tools and techniques that they need. They have a toolkit. Now, AI is at the forefront of all of this right now. I have a lot of people that say, I don't need a business coach. I have AI. And I will tell you this, AI is biased. I know, it's crazy. It learns what you want. It learns what you want it to say, and then it offers back to you over time, the more that you use it, and it learns it will parrot back what it wants you to hear, versus being really honest with you saying, don't do that. Like, I would not do that. Or what is the return on investment? It doesn't ask you the follow-up questions very well to say, you're going to do this activity, what's the return on investment? So that's one of the key things I've learned is if you don't have a business coach, you don't have to have an ongoing relationship with them, but just to check in. Hire someone that can come in and kind of give you some guidance. Maybe you keep them on a retainer, and then you can work with them in the future when you're really knee deep in something and you need that business advice. So have someone on speed dial. That's my first one. My second one I tell people is understanding intention versus impact. And as a business owner, this is really critical, I think. Intention is I want new clients and I want to do all this work. I'm doing this busy work. My impact is nothing, right? I'm not getting clients. I'm not seeing the return. And so what I tell people is that happens in language as well. I'm having a conversation with you. My intention is to help guide you. My impact is I made you mad, right? You're angry at me now. So intention versus impact, understand that when it comes to building your business and growing, start with the Chamber of Commerce in your local area. What does that look like? Go to luncheons, go meet people, look on Facebook, what is local in your area, do a search and find those communities that you can then hook into. Because when you get business owners in a room, you're going to learn from them. You can share something and they're like, oh, I never thought of doing that. Or I didn't know that existed. What technology, right? There's so much technology now, and what should I be using? You can bounce those ideas off your business community to get that.
Some great tips there, and I think you really said it well with the coaching, and I think AI is great. There's lots of things it can help people with, and it can support you in so many ways, but it's very accurate what you said. Like, its job is not to you'd have to really work, you'd have to coach it to coach you.
Exactly.
No, I need you to tell me the real truth.
I need you to tell me.
And I've played with it a little bit with that, and it's helpful, but the human connection is a powerful one, and it's not going away. And that's where I think every bookkeeper could benefit from a business coach. And what I would say is, go pay for one, because that's also a magical trick, is that what you pay for, you have to pay enough that it's uncomfortable, because that's where real results start to show up. If it's something that's free, you're going to get free results, and those will still be good results. I love free results, but what we want are like the $10,000 results, right? The $100,000 results, and that comes from energy. And so I would say, hiring a coach, you got to find one that works for you, because they're not all the same. Like you're a certain person, and you're going to be really good with working with certain people and have certain areas of expertise, and then others will as well. But it's like, find someone who can help you blossom into the best version of you as a business owner is a real great opportunity. And then I love the little bits that you put in there about, go out and do something, put yourself around business owners. I mean, being a bookkeeper, it's really not that difficult to find clients, because anywhere there's people that run businesses, they need people like you. They might already have a great one like you, but it's unlikely. Statistically, you're probably going to find someone who's going to gripe about the bookkeeper. So if you can do a better job, there's an opening there. But they also know everybody. They golf with them. They go boating with them. They go to, hockey games with their kids, with other business owners. Like, they're just everywhere. So going out of your house into the world and find people you like. If you like those people, most likely you'll like the people that they know. And if they can be clients, wow, you're sailing.
I also tell people, very important for bookkeepers and all business owners, is what is your 30-second elevator speech? What is that elevator speech that if I were to get on the first floor with you and we're going to the 10th floor and I say, it's uncomfortable and I say, oh, what do? You need to be able to tell me very quickly and shortly and succinctly what it is you do, but more importantly, how you add value. So if you were to say, oh, I'm a bookkeeper, I would say, oh, that's interesting. You must work with numbers and spreadsheets all day. But if you were to tell me, I offer business owners a strategic advantage because I help them understand ROI, now I'm like, whoa, I need that, right?
I love that. That's a good one. I'm an ROI coach. I love it.
Understand what does a business owner want, right? What are their what are their pain points? What do they want? And then how do you solve that problem? And so my best advice for anyone is don't limit yourself to your job title or what your business does. Don't limit yourself, because you are more than a bookkeeper. You are more than just running numbers in a spreadsheet and working on QuickBooks, right? You are actually someone who looks at strategy and has that piece that can help people. And so that's where you if you can solve a pain point, you have a client.
I love it. And the ROI one is great. And I said ROI coach. I would shift that. It's an ROI expert. I'm an expertise in ROI. Oh, you say that to a business owner, they're going to be like, what? And it's not far from accurate, because
it is accurate.
It's very accurate, because you could literally, a bookkeeper is tracking all of the money flow in a business. And all you need to add on is like, well, what are the returns you're looking for in the investment of your time, money, and efforts? That's what bookkeepers really could position themselves as, ROI experts. And I'll tell you, you'll get the attention in an elevator. They won't be trying to get off at the next floor. They'll be like, tell me more.
Tell me more. How does this work? My sister is a bookkeeper. So this is one of the biggest things for me is when she and I were talking about, because she's hired me as her coach. So she's like, I really want to grow, right? She's like, I got standard clients and I want to grow my business. I want to grow this. And the first thing I told her is, well, what do you tell people you do? She goes, oh, I'm a bookkeeper. I'm like, no, that's the first thing we're going to change. We're going to completely change. You're not going to say that anymore. Don't say that anymore. But the other thing, I think for her, the biggest shift that she had was she goes, I need to get comfortable saying that. And so being in her local, she's in her local chamber, she goes to the business meetings. And then when she goes, she tries every time, she tries a different, like, this is what my business does. And she tries a different slant on it until she is now fine. It took her 6 months, but she's now fine. She's an ROI expert. She helps you look at your long-term investments and growth, and she looks at where you're lacking in sales. It may be a blind spot for you, right? Yeah, so she's kind of helping you understand this is your flow, and then this is the blind spot. And she's gotten more clients because she's done it for one guy and he knows the construction. She would have never approached the construction team, right? She would have never gone into this area of expertise, but because of who she's coaching right now, who she's working with right now, she is now going into this new business. So she's learning herself all about construction. She's done some of it in the past, but now she's learning this industry. And by building your skills, you're going to find your niche, because maybe you're doing bookkeeping right now and you don't enjoy it. Let's be clear. It may have gotten really difficult for you to do it. You're not enjoying it and you're dreading getting up on Sunday. But if you can get a new industry, think about that. Growing into a new industry, you're going to learn. And you're going to be interested in doing that work again.
I love it. I love that angle, and I love the ROI angle, and I think it's exciting on many, many fronts, just getting someone's attention, but also when you start there, they're going to want to pay for that, right? That's something who isn't going to want better return on what they're doing. And so these are great. I just absolutely love that. You've been a treat to have on the show. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I'd love for you to share any links or thoughts or ideas of where people could get to know you better, or maybe get some resources from you. If you want to share that, that would be great. Maybe they want to work with you.
So my website is Squared Success. It's very simple. It's squaredsuccess.com. I'm also on socials as Squared Success, so I've kind of made it easy for people to find me. And then on LinkedIn, I'm Teresa L. Gregory, so you can find me on LinkedIn as well. My calendar is on LinkedIn, so if you want to schedule time, you can schedule a meeting. It's available and active right now directly on LinkedIn. That's the fastest way to get onto my calendar.
Beautiful. Well, this has been a real pleasure. I want to thank you on behalf of our listener for your generosity in coming on the show and sharing some of your expertise with us today.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. This has been a delight.
The pleasure is all ours. And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest, please go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.